My name is Bartosz Woźniak. I'm a consultant from Business Warehouse and also a certified consultant from Business Planning and Consolidation Solution from SAP. Today we will talk about what is BPC, what are the profits from BPC implementation, why we suggest to implement BPC with BCC, so proposed approach for implementation. Then I will talk shortly about consolidation workflow in the system on the slides, and then we will go to the live demo. Don't be afraid, we just have oh, sorry, I have to unfreeze. And then we will go straight to live demo, so I just have 5 slides to have a good start. So the idea of BPC is to keep employees from financial departments within already well-known background and environment. That's why BPC is a kind of add-on to Microsoft Excel. We can see its occurrence by 2 additional tabs. You can see this is EPM and Data Manager. EPM is rather for strictly reporting. Data Manager is for data inputs or some master data changes, because these changes can be also done by end user, not by IT. And the second part of this solution is web-based, web browser-based portal, where you can manage the whole process of consolidation. You will see what activities in which order you should follow to end up successfully. There is also, as you can see, process monitor for persons responsible for administrating the whole workflow. And we also have a consolidation monitor. This is a tool for example, finance director who can decide, for example, to convert currencies or to calculate the final consolidation. So what are the profits from implementation of BPC? We are trying to reverse 80-20 rule. So our goal is to spend less time on data preparation and to spend this, let's say, free time on analyzing changes between time frames and thinking how can we improve our business, and not focusing on very technical details combined with data input and data cleansing and so on. The second time the second profit from implementation would be shortening the time needed to prepare consolidated financial statement. So usually after such implementation, this time for the whole process is shortened remarkably. This is especially important for companies or capital groups listed on the public markets, but also sometimes it is very clear requirement from the parent company for the subsidiaries to report faster. We also gain transparency of the business process, because prior to implementation we have to sort our consolidation process. As you will see in a few minutes, there is a very clear path. What should we do and what are the dependencies between tasks to succeed with consolidation. And the other thing is that we have one single application consistent with our source system, SAP, ECC, and Microsoft Excel. Here I have to mention that I will be presenting on BPC version 10.1 based on HANA, but there are also versions for NetWeaver, and also you can build the whole solution on the Microsoft SQL database. So there should be, even if you have third-party systems, not SAP transactional system, you can benefit from the BPC implementation. And one additional remark, BPC may be used for planning and for consolidation. When it comes to consolidation, we can consolidate according to local accounting acts. For example, some Polish, specific to Polish or to your country regulations, but it can be also made according to IFRS, so International Financial Reporting Standards, and also for US GAAPs. So that is also not a problem. This tool is so flexible that we can do almost everything we want. Another benefit is that we keep history in one place. When we prepared this solution, we consulted this with auditors to gain the knowledge about what is the best workflow for consolidation, how should we manage the whole process, what are the best practices. And some small remark came that consolidation is really history or history driven. So in our consolidated financial statement, we have produced nowadays, we have a reflection of past economic events. So even if we, for example, change auditors, they will definitely want to see what was, how it was consolidated in the previous timelines, in previous years. Actual data, so we do not have to think about who has the latest version of our consolidated statement. What is usually done when we use consolidated spreadsheet in form of Microsoft Excel only. So sometimes it is kept by some financial department employee, sometimes maybe somebody saved it on the pen drive. So we do not have to track this because it is tracked by the system out of the box. And elimination of data errors. First, there will be definitely less data errors because of very high integration between systems. But secondly, we can set up some kind of automatic controls that will check data consistency after loading this data into the into our consolidation system. Control supervision. It is very easy to control data changes. It is also easy to control the whole process flow if there are any delays. Secondly, you can also control easily access because you can define, for example, entity or time frame and assign these parameters to specific user groups. So also this administration, if necessary, may be done by IT, but usually it can be also done by finance department. So you get a really flexible and comfortable and used tool. So what is the workflow in the system for the consolidation? First of all, we have to get some source data. That will be source data coming from individual financial statements. Secondly, we have to provide data verification. For each company, there may be defined different rules regarding data consistency. For example, that assets should be equal to liabilities, that net profit listed in P&L should be equal to the one listed in the liabilities in the balance sheet. And you can also define on your own many more such watch points, or let's say watchdogs, to be sure that your data used further in the consolidation process is correct. This is very helpful because discovering problems on that stage will ease to conduct consolidation process seamless. And going back a few steps, when you discover some wrong data input, a few steps further, and going back just to find a bad incoming data, it's very time consuming, and it's not as easy as you can imagine. So that's the advantage of this data verification. Then we have to convert our currency. This is necessary only in cases when the parent company has different functional currency as the subsidiary company. So if that's necessary, we have to convert the currency to the parent company group, capital group currency. Then we check the ownership structure control. Then we check ownership structure. The ownership structure is assigned to a capital group and to specific time period. So if there will be any changes, for example, you buy or acquisition or disposal of shares, there should be no problem in managing this because the ownership structure is assigned to a specific time period. If the structure is not changing, there is no problem. You can copy this structure, ownership structure, between two different time periods. After you have all data in place, you want to input some consolidation adjustments. We can distinguish between automatic posted consolidation adjustments and manually posted consolidation adjustments. So this is the clue of the whole system. After that, you want to generate some control reports just to be sure that everything before was done correctly. If something is still missing, you can put some manual journal inputs. This is very good example because you can put this manual journal only in this system, so you don't have to make some postings in your transactional systems when you have already your accountancy periods closed. And at the end, you will simply get financial. You go to the final verification, and you can generate consolidated financial statement. Of course, you can also produce some explanatory notes required by a capital group. So now we can move to live demo. So this is my work. This is my welcome screen from the web browser interface, and I can see this is the library for, let's say, storing documents, but the main position for today's webinar are my activities. So this is the list assigned to of tasks assigned to me, which should I perform to go through the consolidation workflow. One remark: this is rather unusual, but required when it comes to such kind of presentation. I'm assigned as a performer and also as a reviewer. Usually that won't happen, but trying to avoid switching between accounts and windows, I'm assigned to, for example, in these two tasks, as a performer and as a reviewer. So I will explain this later, and administration is something that we will not touch. This is configuration and master data management and so on. We have also plenty of system reports and documents which help to manage and monitor the whole process, but we will focus on the three ones up here. So first of all, we have to check our ownership structure, because we can, as I said, acquire or dispose some shares. As you can see, my capital group is named Europe, but I have one parent company and two subsidiaries. In our demo, it is assumed that my parent company functional currency is Polish zloty. Then we have subsidiary also functioning in Polish zloty, but we also have second subsidiary which functional currency is US dollar. And the second assumption is that we are the owner of the subsidiary one, which is here marked as an entity JZ1, but we only own 80% of this entity, but we, let's say, have the full control of this entity. That's why we are consolidating with a full method. This is the place, this is important because when we will calculate a minority share in capitals or minority share in net profit, this will be taken into account. And as I told you before, this ownership structure is assigned to December 2015, but you can easily change it, or if it's needed, you can copy to another periods. So I haven't changed anything. I just checked that this as before. So my task is now completed, marked as completed. This is the window where I can put some of my comments. This will help some managerial staff to manage the process. For example, if I would acquire some other company, I can post a comment. Could you check for example, just to give some hints that there may be something to check on the second level. We do not have, for this step, I did not provide the verification. So I close this activity. This comment is here visible. So you see the comment, who wrote this, when, and at which age, at which activity status it was written. Now I want to check if my currency exchange rates are also provided correctly. These are also assigned to a specific period. So this is the average exchange rate, closing exchange rate. This is the exchange rate for incoming units, and this is the exchange rates for dividends. Just these four labels are not translated, but this is also not a problem. I just omit that. So I assume my currency exchange rates are correct. So I can also click close this, complete this activity. And please have a look that this is happening automatically, that my previously conducted tasks, if I have accomplished them, they are set to completed, and the first, let's say, first 3 to do is on the top of the list. I have also some deadlines assigned here. It is showing that in yellow that I should maybe make it a bit quicker, because somebody, for example, in the 2 other steps, should also have the ability to review it. So okay, I can go, and this is the scenario for the parent company, and we assume that we have loaded data for a parent company from BW system directly. I see there are some technical problems because I was maybe opening so many times Excel without restarting. Just let me close it. Okay. Once again. Okay, now it goes. And this is the, let's say, environment for our accounting department or financial department. What we can see here, this is just a Excel input spreadsheet to control incoming data from BW. But what we can see here, this data is assigned to our parent company. It is assigned to December 2015. This is our actual version. Version dimension is responsible for distinguishing data. We can have different versions, for example, actual data as here, some test data, or for example some budget data, optimistic and pessimistic budget data. So this is how we distinguish between them. As you can see, there are some forecasts for September, there are some monthly budget, annual budget, and so on. Okay, we have also entity, as I told you before. We have also flows. Flows are to distinguish between different types of operations. Here this FOO is responsible for opening balance. These are the figures taken directly from source system. The second flow is responsible for calculating or for providing information about net profit. We keep these in separate flows because usually data coming from balance sheet are calculated on a closing currency exchange rate, and when it comes to net profit, it is usually calculated, converted at average conversion currency rate. But as you can see, I have here some kind of check that my assets are equal to liabilities, and this is really true. So we have, let's say, this is Ant responsible for some kind of closing balance. Okay. We also have some dimension named audit trail. This is to distinguish where this data is coming from. When we want to track inconsistencies in the data or some unwillingly changed data, we can check where this faulty data is coming from. So input is responsible for source systems, local adjustments. For example, I could make here some local adjustments, so we already then distinguish between automatically imported data and manually manually provided data, but so and so they are summarized in this dimension member, all local inputs. So this is, let's say, pure data input for further processing. And when you will see in the closing balance for all local inputs, we have already well prepared data. All of these dimensions, for example, time, entity, and so on, they have their own hierarchy. I will show you this is not part of, we'll mark this as complete. And I will show you how does it look like. For example, for audit trail, showing that we have some hierarchy. This is what I already showed. This is the member responsible for data input directly from source systems. This is the local adjustments. So our adjustments made manually in the system, and they are summed up in the all input dimension member. This is similar, for example, for entities. For example, I put it here. So this is my exemplary, these are my exemplary entities, parent companies, subsidiaries. I can have more than usual dimension members, but I can easily choose which one I want to use in my scenario. Okay, going back to our activities, our consolidation flow. I will also close this spreadsheet. One difference between Excel spreadsheet and using and saving data in BPC is that we simply do not use the save button, let's say original one from Excel spreadsheet, but we have a separate button which will save this report on the BPC platform. And when it comes to providing data and making some changes, we also do not use the saving button, but we simply saying, yes, please save this data to our BPC landscape. So what we have done, this is we have checked if the incoming data for balance sheet for parent company is correct. Yes, we have completed, and then we have second scenario, for example, loading data from a flat file. For example, costs of integration or between two different systems may be so high that it is worth to provide some flat file integration and then use this flat file as a source for our data. In this scenario, please note that we will have two different forms for this activity. There will be separate form for performer and a separate form for reviewer, because we assume this is such a possibility in the system, and in our demo we assume that the reviewer has less time, is not willing to go into very details, so that's why we prepared such a form which has, let's say, less data and require less time to overview. So first of all, we will check how it looks like currently. As you can see, there is no data here. There are some just the zeros here. So we have a blank spreadsheet, and then now we will try to import some data from a flat file. Just want to show you how it looks like. This is just a simple flat file. I'm sure that it is possible to produce such one from almost every system, transactional system. So that should not be a problem for you in the future use. And then we have to map between positions from this individual finance statements and positions, line items into BPC line items. So this is done in the second Excel spreadsheet, so you do not need IT assistance to do so. For example, you have some other number ranges in your GL account in the transactional system. So you put some numbers and you can assign appropriate one position or your position in the financial statement in the BPC system. You can do this one by one, but it is rather time consuming. So you can use some kind of masks or wildcards to cover a broader range of the accounts. You can also skip one of those. If there will be empty one, it will be skipped. The same refers to entity. If you have different encryption for entity in your system, and we have different also for our internal BPC reasons, the description, we can also use it. And sometimes may be useful to convert time dimension format. So this is used in the step which I will conduct now. This was checking what is current state of our balance sheet. I'm clicking loading data. Okay, already opened this twice. Okay. And simple go next, next, next. These are some technical settings which are remembered. And I can finish and run it. To keep the maintenance as simple as possible, we also added another task to have the overview of the data loading status. So you can simply also click and see if the data was loaded successfully. I can see that, yeah, time is correct, so this is my latest loading and it was succeeded. For example, if we have some warnings, we also will have a description, but if we succeed, we also have some details. We can know how many records were stored in our BPC database, and none of these records were rejected, so it's okay. Oops. And to just review the changes, I can refresh this report. And as you can see, this is the part of the opening balance. This was stored in the flow responsible for net profit and loss. But at the end, we have closing balance and the audit trail for all local inputs, and here assets are equals to liabilities. And then we have also third scenario. I will submit because I have loaded this. I'm the employee responsible for performing this task. I will submit this without any comment. Can close. And now I'm here perceived as a reviewer because this guy has performed this task and now I'm a reviewer. As you can see, the status buttons are also somehow changed because it was submit before and now I have approve or reject. But before I will approve, I want to really check this. And as you can see, there is just one task here. Before it was data overview, data loading, and checking the loading data status, and here we have simply only data verification form. And as you can see, I have to change this here. Yes, so just the one parameter was not okay, but I can, because of scrolling. As you can see, this is the form for overview for our, let's say, reviewer, just to have a slight and fast overview over the main categories in our financial statement. So it's okay, I can approve it. And we will go down with the process. When it comes to second subsidiary, we have functional currency US dollar. So as you will see, we will also input data. This is assumed that we are providing this data directly in the input form in the manual manner. And as you can see, let me simple check, yes, here. You can see for US subsidiary, you will also put in the values for in local currency, and then they will be calculated into capital group currency. These values are placed not in opening balance but in flow 20, which is responsible for increase in purchase, because it is assumed that we have acquired this company on the last day of the previous week of the previous year. That's why we have to distinguish to also convert these values at different exchange rates. So let's assume I have provided these figures manually in this form. Usually I can save it after such a changes. Okay, there is no data. Let's assume I can change this one. And this is as simple as you can see. So I can simply add it as an Excel cell. It is shown that I have changed it to 20,000, and I can save it. There is a counter how many data I have to save. And you will get a notification if it was successful and how many data cells have been saved. I would just revert this task to get the final result right, and also to get the consistency between assets and liabilities. Okay, and we can submit this, so we already have all individual data inputs in the system. I also have a reviewer activities for this step. So as you can see, also here we have combined another verification form. That will be the shortened balance sheet. As you can see, we do not have as many columns as before for the reviewer, so this is easier to go through it. Okay, I will approve it also. So what's left when we already have a data inside? Okay, there are also input data for profit and loss statement, but this is very similar, and I see that we are running out of time, so maybe I will go directly to intercompany transactions data input. So let me allow to accept and mark it as completed this profit and loss. Okay, maybe I will show you, because there is one difference between these forms. You can prepare different forms for different entities, but you can also keep one form for all entities. For example, when you have one responsible person for data input for all subsidiaries, this might be helpful, because as you can see, currently I'm providing data for parent company, but it is as easy as you can see to change this. And now I can provide data for my subsidiary, and then after changes save it. So I do not need more than one file to manage this. Intercompany may be quite confusing, but it's not. It's simple. It's more simple than usual, because you have all data in one place. After you have imported this data, you can check, let's say, make a cross-check, which is usually made manually. But here you can set some controls. But let me shortly explain how it's made. So let's assume we have subsidiary 1, and they have, in summary, 50,000 in trade liabilities. So this is the summary. So also in-house or inside the capital group, and also trade liabilities from to third parties. And we can split this this figure and look, for example, that we have 10,000 liabilities combined with parent company for opening balance in local currency. So we have to check if the local parent company has also some receivables showing in other positions. So we have here the parent company. We have to look for subsidiary 1 in columns. So it is a bit further here. And as you can see, we have also 10,000 of receivables. So this is cross-checked, made by me manually, but this can be done by control, and it will show you on which position between which two entities something is inconsistent. As you can see, these transactions are also converted on the later stage between currencies. This is, for example, denominated in US dollar, and this is already denominated in Polish zloty. This is usually calculated on the later stage, but I already did it in this presentation. So, okay, we have an overview of our intercompany data cross-check, and this intercompany data also may be imported directly from VW or from Flatwise or from any other source. I will not go into profit and loss because it is very similar and we are just running out of time. As you can see, this is so passionate that you cannot stop it. We have also manual postings. This is in case there are some transactions that may be hard to manage, that may be hard to repeat them in the next time periods. So sometimes it is much easier to use a manual posting feature. Here we have great by me. Here we have some 2 manual postings. For example, stating about dividend payments. So we have to book this dividend payments in our consolidated statement because it is between 2 entities in our group. So I can click to post it into December 2015. We can give accounts, flows, and also figures, so it is very flexible. We have also many other options here. And as you can see, I'm posting this not to singular entities, but for my capital group. And also this is actual version, so this is not a budget, not some test data. And also here we have some capital eliminations. I can also post it. This is the posting for the, as I can see, minority interests. And also there is a goodwill here posted. Sometimes it is simply and easier to make it manually. So we have posted manual bookings, manual journals. We can complete this and go back to our task list. So we have consolidated financial statements before us. So let's move to the process monitor. We can check how many tasks are already closed. We can simply drill down and look what are the outstanding ones. So I can see that we have 2 outstanding tasks to view the final financial statement and the profit and loss, here balance sheet and profit and loss. And if there are some delays, I can also list all tasks requiring action. So assume there is some delay, and I can find that that this guy is responsible for some delays. So this is very helpful. We also have additional place, let's say, for the master of this consolidation process. This is consolidation monitor. And as you can see, we have our capital group named Europe, parent company, and 2 subsidiaries. And this is managed with the traffic lights information. So yes, this is passed, but we have to control this data. This is what I was talking about. If the incoming data are consistent, then we will block the work status because we do not want end users to change anything. And then we will provide currency translation and the final consolidation. So first of all, we have to go to the controls monitor and run all my controls for the whole capital group. So we have passed all 3 controls. We can go through the controls results. That's all. And as you can see, there is an equation. This was the simplest one you can ever think about. So the assets are equal to liabilities. You have the result of this equation. So there is no difference. It may be assumed when you are setting up this controls that there will be some, let's say, place for some margin, so threshold available. It may be described in figures, but it may be also described this discrepancies in percentage values, but here we require it to be exactly as it should be. Okay, so we can go back to consolidation monitor and refresh it. Now we have the data control status as marked as passed. We want now to block changes in data made manually by end users normal available. So we set the work status to approved. So we have approved all data coming in. So it was successful, and we can also do 2 steps together or on their own. Currency translation and consolidation. For this purpose, we will use, for purpose of this presentation, we will consolidate this at once with currency translation, and it will ask us, do we want to proceed with all incoming data, or do we want use only incremental consolidation? And this might be helpful when we have plenty of data and we simply have changed only 2 or 3 rows. So there is no need to calculate all the dependencies, all intercompany reconciliations and so on. Only the new incoming data will be taken into account. So this might be helpful for performance reasons, but for this presentation we will use full consolidation. Okay, so the consolidation was processed. As you can see, there are no errors. If there will be some, we can, let's say, drill down and see what was wrong, why this process did not happen successfully. So now we can go to our list of activities and see our financial statements, balance sheet, just to control before publication. And as you can see, this is a balance sheet presented for capital group. This capital group is, in our case, named Europe, denominated in PLN, which is capital group functional currency, and this is closing balance of this audit trail dimension. So as you can see, everything is correct because we have assets equals to liabilities. We will also, I think, have, yes, as you can see, we have also some non-controlling interests. So this indicates that we have correct this minority interest well included. And we can also see profit and loss statement. Okay, this is the, let's say, extended version with more columns and possible to trace all the changes in data in the current line item and the consolidated profit and loss statement. And as you can see, this is also the simplest ever possible profit and loss, but it is possible to build any report template you wish. So they might be extended, they might be very simple, they might be provided in a form that you will directly use in your published consolidated financial statement. One good feature, you can also integrate BPC with Microsoft Word, and it will be possible to then place such a table and refresh it dynamically, so you do not have to copy and paste it many times every time you want to issue a new document. So this concludes our consolidation process flow. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope to hear you soon. I seek to ask some questions. One moment. Okay, there is a question if the end users are able to create such a such a process flows on their own. Yes, they are. If they only have sufficient rights, that should not be a problem. I will just show you quickly how you can create this. So we usually prepare some kind of process template, which describes specific or steps. But if you want to arrange already some task instance, you go simply and create a new one. For example, let's say take this demo VO8. You describe who is in charge to finish this instance of the process. You describe for which time period this will occur. You can also describe who is responsible to perform this and who is responsible to review the data, and then simply you can start immediately or set some dates, some threshold dates to perform. They might be set separate for performer as separate for reviewer. Let's say we can start this instance, finish, and as you can see, this is what we have done before. So during our presentation, this is FS Consolidation December 2015. It is waiting for finalization. So let's say the final tick that we will close it, and we have the now new process instance running. And when I will go to my activities and refresh it, I will see that I have two processes, but I can see that my new one, demo VO8, requires some new activities from me. So thank you very much for your attention, for your time, and I hope to hear you soon.